you referenced the sort of deplorable situation in terms of the arts in our public education system, and I'm wondering what role you or the National Endowment is playing in trying to reverse that.
Well, we basically divided, from our perspective, arts education into three pieces. You know, one, and I think this is the fundamental one, where kids get ongoing, focused instruction. They learn how to play an instrument, they learn how to act, they learn studio art, et cetera, which tends to be, you know, classroom-based activities, you know, as part of the curriculum. The second is taking the arts and integrating them into other subjects. I mean, for example, we have a national jazz program, for introduction to jazz, that we've done in partnership with Jazz at Lincoln Center and Lincoln Marsalis. We've designed it purposely so it can not only be taught in a music class, it can be taught in a history class. It can be taught in a civics class as part of the history of the civil rights movement. It can be taught in social studies in a different way, and it could even be taught in a geography class where each day is a different city in the history of jazz. The third thing is something, and I think this should be just a basic student's bill of rights, that in the course of the year they go to a museum, they go to a concert, they go to a play, they see dance. And so what we're trying to do, now our charter is basically focused on the last one. We've become very involved in terms of creating the second one. And what we look at is putting leadership, because we're not allowed to suggest curriculum or anything else, but we can create a national argument, a national discussion about the necessity of doing this. Actually, even as I understand it, the Department of Education is not allowed to prescribe curriculum. But the fact is that we, at a local level, this thing is, the consensus that built arts education historically has fallen apart in this country. And unless there is some leadership from Washington, it's going to continue to get worse. So, you know, we have, in a sense, stepped into that void because somebody needed to be there. I was shocked when I got to Washington to realize there was not a single effective national spokesman or spokeswoman, you know, for public supportive arts or arts education in the country. There were very established critics of it, but there was nobody that was doing it effectively. And so we've tried to bring the endowment into that void, and I think we've been very successful. I mean, if you simply look at the way the issues are discussed, they've gone from, in a sense, being largely critiques to now there is a really growing sense of this in the country. But we're just at the very beginning of the reformation of education, I think.
I'm going to take one last question.
Okay. Not an arts professional, but I'm interested in it and I do it myself. The reason why I say that, I was wondering if you could give me sort of a specific idea of how the NEA actually affects Rhode Island right now, what specific programs they're involved in, and is anything coming up in the future? Maybe Mr. Senator Whitehouse, if you have some perspective also.
Well, the NEA, I would say there's 4 ways in which we would affect every state. The first thing is that we give over 2,000 grants a year. And so in the course of the year, you know, we'll be giving a great many grants to individual arts organizations and artists in Rhode Island. So that's the first one. That's kind of obvious. Trinity we will get a grant, usually in the average year. A lot of the leading arts organizations. Second, 40% of our money goes to the state arts organizations. So, I don't know, what percentage of our budget, of your budget, is NEA funds?
It's about 12 to 15%.
Yeah. Now, that's, in some states, it is 50% because the state is obliged to match us. In some states, that's all, you know, if the NEA did not give that state money, they would not have an arts organization. You know, before the NEA came into existence, only 13 states had arts organizations. And so our federal funds, with the congressional mandate that they have to be matched at the state level, created these arts organizations. The third thing we do is create a lot of touring programs like Shakespeare in American Communities, American Masterpieces, Jazz Masters, that will, you know, come to places, you know, like the Newport Jazz Festival or Rhode Island schools. And the final one, which is an interesting one for museums, is that we also administer the Federal Council on the Arts. And I'm happy to say that, you know, over the last 5 years, it's gone from $5 billion of indemnity to $15 billion of indemnity, which means that the United States acts as an insurer to art exhibitions. And this saves probably American museums between $50 and $60 million a year at no cost whatsoever to the federal government. And so we're, in a sense, by underwriting it, I think it's a really visionary way of providing federal leadership, which provides local benefits at no cost to the taxpayer. So those are 4 of the ways, I think, in which we do. Then the 5th way I think we benefit is by actually becoming advocates for these issues on a national basis or in Congress.
And
Yeah,
recognizing artists as well.
Yes.
by giving
I was actually going to say that one of the most incredibly beneficial reasons to have a federal funding agency for the arts is the leadership that they show and the direction that they give to help us at the state level advance that agenda. Without the strong leadership of the National Endowment for the Arts, it would be a lot harder for us at the state level to make the argument that public support for the arts was important.
Yeah. Every dollar we give tends to generate 7 to 8 additional dollars. And so, you know, what we are primarily is an organization which serves as a guarantee of quality and then a financial catalyst.
And just for the record, in fiscal year 2007, the last fiscal year, 10 grants were awarded to Rhode Island organizations totaling $1,040,600. So there's a considerable amount of resources coming to the state from the federal government. That's all we have time for. Thank you very much. I wanted to thank Senator Whitehouse, Chairman Gioia, for coming here.